a Sankarshan Joshi trip.
Yes, we are rolling. Hi, Apoorva.
Hello.
Thank you so much for doing this. Like, I know you had a pretty busy week, and like you still made time for this. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, like initially, like when I heard that you were a dance and movement therapist, like I got like really excited, like because like I start defining what this might be like in my own common like layman terms, and then like I also believe that when it comes to therapy and like mental well-being, like I think that like you doing something physically like also like it's also very important. So
Yeah.
like I'm a layman and I don't know what this is. Like could you tell me like what like dance and movement therapy is all about?
Okay. To put it in very, very simple terms, um, I will just talk about the premise of dance movement therapy, right?
Okay.
Um, it's called dance hyphen movement therapy because it was actually started by the whole movement was started by dancers. So that is the only reason why dance came into the picture,
Hmm.
right? Otherwise, I think I would be more comfortable calling it movement therapy, right? So now, when we talk about dance movement therapy, there are experiences where words fail.
Hmm.
Right? There are sometimes experiences that are too traumatic, or you know, just not enough words to sum up an experience. Right? Let it
Yeah.
be, let's say, something that's too deeply saddening, or something that's extremely exciting.
Hmm.
Sometimes you can't put them in words, but then maybe you can move to it. Then maybe the body talks. What happens when words fail? Is there another medium of looking for therapy without the actual use of words? Right? Of course, we do use verbal processing and we do process the experience in the groups through words. But before that, how can we, provide therapy with some of the most simplest creative arts? Let's say art, movement, music.
So like when you say
And
movement, like even like painting and drawing, like all those come into picture.
of course, we use all of it to process. We use art to sort of close down the experience, to build some sort of closure for the session. We use sometimes we use art, sometimes we use music, sometimes we use sounds. So it's a mix of everything.
So like if someone comes to you for therapy, uh, like would you make them do like everything, like from music to like art to everything, like painting, drawing?
No, it depends on the need of the client and what the client
Okay.
is bringing into the session. And also, it's not what the therapist can make the client do. The movement is elicited from the client. We are using their own natural movement vocabulary and
Okay.
providing how we can see, how we can sort of use that to give therapeutic benefits. Because everybody knows that movement, just moving your body in any way, sometimes people feel very low. They go to the gym, come back, or they go for a run, come back, you feel better, right? The endorphins kick in. So how can we use that movement to give therapeutic benefits? Because there is the whole thing that motion and emotion are connected. That is the actual premise of DMT, that there is a nexus between the mind body nexus and exploring that connection.
So like what is the first thing that you make? Or like someone like for example, if I come to you or like what is the first thing that you would do?
Okay, so I am trained to facilitate only groups as of now, right?
Okay.
So I do use, let's say, tiny bits of, my therapeutic movement facilitation skills in my actual counseling sessions as well, because that really helps me understand clients better. because
Okay.
anything that is more integrative helps, like, in most ways, is what I feel. So the first thing when I generally work with groups is that I go with a basic session plan, a basic plan with like an icebreaker, just to getting to know them, and making the group comfortable with each other. Because if it's a group that is long standing, that they're going to work for, let's say, about 20 sessions, then they need to sort of build that kind of trust, that kind of
Yes.
group coordination, the group cohesion, for them to even work through issues that are, let's say, not that comfortable for them to work on.
Yeah, but if it's something very personal, like they need to get comfortable with the environment, right? Like in order to like move very freely or
Of
like
course, of
like
course.
freely
And
express
most people
themselves.
think it's done. Most people think it's dance. They're like, okay, you're going to make us dance, and which is not the case in dance therapy.
Yeah, like when you say like when you said if you're feeling low, you go for a run or you work out and then you feel better. So like partially this was the reason why I was really excited to talk to you is because so like I like working out, like that is like a major part of my life right now. And so like during quarantine, like if I don't work out, then I feel like there is so much energy inside, but I don't know like what to do. Like then uh like all the like overthinking starts, you know what I mean? Like I started to feel very suffocated. I feel like there is too much energy and I don't know what to do. So like that way, like working out like helped me come out of it. And then I created a opinion, and I thought that maybe like working out helps, like you need to do some form of physical activity. And yeah, like that was the reason like I wanted to know more about like like movement therapy, all that.
Right.
Hmm.
So when you're saying that, working out really helped me, otherwise it like felt very, like the energy felt very trapped, right?
Hmm.
We as humans are used to movement. Movement is
Hmm.
universal.
Yeah.
And why I say that, let's go to the fundamental basic unit of movement, let's say breathing, right? Everyone relates to breathing.
Yes.
Even a person with an ailment of, with an ailment, let's say, of the lungs, knows the value of breathing. In fact,
Hmm.
they would know more, right? And especially when you feel stuck, I think this is something that a lot of people felt during the quarantine. I did too. I felt very stuck sitting at home in one place doing one thing, and just going outside to my balcony and just breathing fresh air helped. It made me feel alive. If just
Yeah.
that little movement of your torso going that way can help you feel alive, imagine what your entire body, uh, the kind of knowledge it holds, the kind of wisdom your body holds. Just by breathing, you can feel alive.
Yeah.
You see, your entire state of mind from being stuck to feeling alive. When you go to places which are really, or when you're in spaces around nature, when you go for like a holiday or traveling, you feel more alive,
Yes.
because one, you've moved from the place, right? Second is that there is some sort of shift in your movement,
Hmm.
right? If I'm at home, maybe I'd be sitting in my room, couched up on my phone or working, doing notes. This is my basic movement repertoire at home. This is the vocabulary I have at home.
Yeah.
Sleep, get up, okay, brushing my teeth. These are automatic responses that I have.
Yeah. It
But
becomes
when
very
I go
sedentary.
outside, exactly. So when I go, let's say when I go outside, I'm doing something else that is different from
Hmm.
my, it's a
Usual
part of
routine.
my, it's a part of my vocabulary, but it's
Huh.
something different, you know. And the basic premise is that our body holds experiences, traumatic experiences, happy experiences, be it anything. Why is it that you can feel butterflies in your stomach when you're nervous? It
Hmm.
is the body's way of telling you that the body has its wisdom. So if, let's say, your mind is too cluttered, let's say when you're doing therapy, normally you're working with the mind to change your behavior, right,
Hmm.
and bringing it to the body. Let's say you're getting that wisdom into the body. What if we reverse it,
Hmm.
using the body to sort of integrate your physical, social, cognitive, emotional selves?
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
And that itself is therapy. Like, it's the psychotherapeutic use of movement. That is what DMT is.
Yeah, and also like people when they're doing something like this, like they come out of that, okay, I'm in a therapy kind of mindset. Like like they become much more freer, right? Like when you go to a psychologist or when you're sitting and when you getting a therapy done, you know that you're with a therapist and you're getting a therapy done. But like whereas like if you're moving and you're doing something other than like talking about your problems and all that, like I think that it also gives, like I think that people restrict themselves, like sometimes when they feel that, okay, I'm in a therapeutic environment, or something like that. And then whereas when it comes to movement, I think they're much more not conscious that they are in a therapy, and they're much more freer.
Of course, because I do understand that talking and talk therapy is a very, very essential part of therapy in itself, right? Because on the other hand, I am also a counseling psychologist, so I know the benefits of it, right? But again, it doesn't work for everybody, is what I feel. Because for someone like me who is used to movement, I've been dancing since the age of 5. So for me, movement actually became a way of expression since a very young age without my knowledge. So for me, if you say movement therapy session, it would work better. Of course, there is a therapeutic alliance there as well. There is a therapist and a client. To put it in very simple words, DMT is like talk therapy, but the client is talking with the body, right? And the therapist is trained to listen to the body's voice. To put it in a very simple manner, because DMT and therapy are very similar.
So you're like constantly observing everybody, like whatever they're doing.
Of course, and there's so much that comes up.
Yeah.
And when you're moving freely, there is so much of the unconscious material that comes out.
Yeah.
And that is so rich, that is so detailed. And that is one of the places where you can actually start your work with. I saw you mention that you were overthinking.
Yeah.
There is a reason why you're overthinking, right? Because I think a lot of the times we also mislabel ourselves that, okay, I'm overthinking, I'm doing this, I'm depressed, I'm this. Are you actually depressed, or are you feeling sad?
Yeah.
Of course, intense sadness, intense hurt can also be there, but are you actually depressed about it? Does it take a toll on you, like the way a person with depression actually feels?
Yeah.
That kind of nuances, the nuances that are there between emotions, I don't think people know much about it.
Yeah.
It's either happy or sad. There is no in between. There's no joy. There's no, feeling confused, feeling this, feeling that. There is no, I'm hurt, but I can deal with it. Or, yeah, this is deeply hurtful. Or are you actually hurt, or are you disappointed with someone's behavior? Are you actually hurt, disappointed, upset? What is it? Are you angry? Right? These are all different emotions. And I don't think children in general are taught these different emotions. Just like a color wheel, we have like an emotion wheel, a wheel of emotion. There's a spectrum of emotions. I don't think most people are taught that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think like most people are aware of it. And also there is an element of coolness, like in your circle. Like like I've seen people who think that like either being depressed or like being aggressive or showing attitude, like it's being cool. Like for example, like if you portray yourself to be depressed, like it's cool. Like I've literally seen people do that. Like they portray themselves to be depressed either to get attention maybe, or I don't know, but I'm assuming it's attention, or yeah, like I've seen people do that too.
See, if they're portraying something and they're saying they're depressed, but they don't want to be about it, um, if you're saying attention, they need attention because they're lacking something.
Yeah.
Right? Often, again, we do see these behaviors as very, also when people are generally mentioning that they're depressed or they're sad, they're actually finding ways to communicate. They're actually finding ways to express.
Maybe,
Is that
yeah.
they don't maybe know a better way to communicate, if you look
Yeah.
at it that way.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of the times I have heard some of my clients who come in with self-harm issues, you know, and they talk about it, and they say that, my friends just think I'm trying to seek attention. What they're not seeing is that they're trying to document their pain. They try to feel pain. If I am nervous, I'm trying to feel some pain, or maybe physical pain is better than the pain I'm going through internally.
So is that like a distraction from like internal pain? Like why do people self-harm?
It's not a distraction. It's an actual coping mechanism.
Like how does
Because
that work?
I'm in distress at this point, and I'm hurt about something. Let's say I have failed my exam. Suppose, just imagine, and that's causing me deep hurt, and or I've lost a loved one. That's causing me deep hurt. I have never been taught to regulate my emotions. Maybe as a child, my parents or my circle or my environment has never taught me that it is okay to be sad, that grief is a part, and that you need to mourn their loss and you know sort of process these emotions and get along with it. Maybe I was never equipped to deal with these emotions. I was always asked to be happy in my good behavior, best behavior.
Yeah.
People also see behaviors as good and bad. This is something that I generally have a problem with. If we change the narrative of seeing behaviors as good and bad, from good and bad to healthy and unhealthy, you can change a lot. The way you parent your children can change on another level, because then suddenly parents don't see the child's behavior as bad and sort of condemn them and criticize them. There's more compassion when you look at it. Let's say this is an unhealthy behavior, this is unhealthy for you. If you're And I'm not saying if you're going for a drink once in a while and coming back, but if your child is doing that every second day, then of course it's unhealthy for them. At the end of the day, someday this is going to be an addiction, and this might develop into something that is harmful for the person, to their body. They might end up with some sort of a condition. So this, maybe I was never given that kind of an option to deal with these emotions. So when I don't know how to deal with my emotions, I'm going to do what I feel like at that point. What I want to do, if I'm impulsive, if I'm somebody who's impulsive and things like that, I will look for quick ways of relief. Because when I'm impulsive, I need instant gratification of my needs. I need instant relief. And what most people don't understand is that with self-harm, it is actually a way of documenting pain.
Oh.
Like every time you look at it, there is a memory of it. And if you ask somebody, when did this happen? When did that happen? They will know each and every time. They were like, this is when I got upset. This is when this happened. That is when that happened. Right? And also, a lot of people do say that it is attention-seeking behavior. But what is, if they are seeking attention,
there is
why
a
are they seeking?
Why?
That there is something that they need to be seen, to be heard in a way that they want to be heard. And if, let's say you as an environment, let's say the parents or the friends or people around can provide that space to just hold that person and see them for who they are, things will change drastically. Things will change. Just even when I was learning, I used to think that people who self-harm are just attention-seeking people. Oh my God, like why? How can you do that to yourself? This was me back, let's say 8-9 years ago, when I was studying, when I just got introduced to psychology. But the minute I understood this part, that it is a way to elevate their pain, and that kind of internal pain, I don't think anybody can help you with it. Also, one more thing is that I believe by this. I really, really believe a lot about this. How old are you?
I'm 21.
21. You are 21. Sankarshan is 21. He has lived his life for 21 years. He knows the best ways to get out of things. Whenever you have had a problem, you've gotten out of it. Whenever you've had something, you've got through it. By hook or by crook, let's say even if it's healthy or unhealthy, you have gotten yourself to be alive and surviving. And instead of surviving, you're actually thriving to a point where you're happy and content, let's say, with yourself. If you have done that for yourself for 21 years, how can somebody else come and tell you otherwise? That, oh, you should do this. It will help you, right? Because you know what's going to work for you. You know yourself the best. Even when you are not aware about yourself, even if you have not been to therapy, you know yourself the best. Even
Yeah.
if it's unhealthy, you will keep doing it as long as it's serving you.
Yeah.
So everyone has their own ways of coping. So if we look at it that way, let's say a client comes, they're 40, they're dealing with some problem. They have gotten themselves alive and well till 40
40
years.
years, yeah.
So all you need to do is help them connect with their self, that they can trust themselves, and give them options and choices of behaviors and emotions that can be done differently. You
Yeah.
don't have to put yourself through the pain to feel pain or to elevate the pain.
Yeah. So sometimes you just have to make them see the better options that they have for themselves.
And these options are never provided by, let's say, a lot of the let's say your primary circle, your parents, relatives, grandparents. It's very few cases that I have seen where the parents are very self-aware and they've helped their child through crises, or just given them a good sense of awareness about themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that doesn't happen because there's a lack of awareness with the parent community too. Like sometimes they're just like freaking out. Um, like even when I was talking to like Neha Taparia, so like this was a major portion of our conversation like we had about that people, like parents, uh, they don't know what to do, right? Like they're not really aware. And then there was this beautiful point that came up that like parents, they see teenagers as a problem, uh, or like a problematic age group, rather than seeing it as a phase of life, like this is also going to pass. Yeah. And also like when you say that we need to change the terminologies from good or bad to healthy and unhealthy, right? Like it makes so much sense to me because so good or bad, sometimes like whatever you're doing, if it is bad, to whom? Like so for example, if I am a parent and if I'm saying my kid that whatever you're doing is bad, that means that it might be bad to me, it might be bad to society. There are so many things that might be other than that person. Like when you use the word health, like it is so subjective to that person. Like for example, if I'm doing something unhealthy, like it's, there is amount of care, like when you use the word unhealthiness, like because it is happening to me and you want me to be healthy, like which is better. So yeah, like the point of everything is me when you just change the word, which
Yeah, and you're dealing with so much compassion. Suddenly, there's just so much
yeah,
compassion that comes when you look at it that way,
yeah,
healthy or unhealthy. Just so much compassion comes in. And also, one more thing is that people think that behavior is that person's personality.
uh,
Of course, behavior talks a lot. Suppose the person's lying, this person is a bad person. What is bad person? Only behaviors are good or bad. Even if you want to see it as good or bad, only behaviors can be good or bad, right?
yeah, true,
People innately have both sides in them.
yes,
And I stick by this thing that they have healthy and unhealthy sides to them. That's it. you know if you see it as good or bad, then it becomes a question of moral
yeah.
integrity. Now you're like preaching morals.
The metric with which we are saying something is good or bad, like that changes, right? Like when you, like there might be a lot of aspects like societal, or so if a parent says whatever you're doing is bad, that means that that might affect my social status in this social status, or my reputation, or there's so many things that come into that metric of something is good or bad.
And also what the parents say and how they parent and what they're actually talking to the child really really matters. Because even if you have the most dysfunctional parents, trust me, your child is looking up to you. And
Yeah,
children only learn through observation.
yeah,
When you see a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old toddler, like they're just you dance in front of them, they will do the same thing. They
yeah,
pick up very very quickly.
yes,
So they observe. Children are very, very good observers.
Yeah.
And that is what they will carry for the rest of their lives. So what are they observing in the house is what they will replicate outside as well.
Yeah.
And there is no behavior that a child will learn from outside that is not seen in the house.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
And I'll give you an example. Let's say the father or the mother, both of them are not alcoholics or they just don't drink at all. Okay, but they have really, really bad emotion regulation skills. They numb out their feelings all the time. Okay, they numb it out by saying it's okay, this is life, you have to compromise, or this is no, when they're feeling extremely sad, they want to completely numb it out, not change the feeling, numb it out. Or let's say even they want to change it by doing something that's extremely happy, even if they don't want to do it. There are times when you feel sad and you just want to go for a walk, or you just want to do something that sort of stabilizes you. But to sort of switch the entire game to like from sad to happy, okay, if this is what's happening in the house, okay, parents have had a fight, they don't want to acknowledge it, they don't want to communicate about it, but then next day they're back to talking normally without even having a single conversation around it, right? The child sees the fight, doesn't see the communication that happens between the parents, and then this is what this child is exposed to at home. Now the child goes out, let's say starts drinking. Okay, now see the similarities between the two behaviors. The parents are used to numbing out their feelings and altering their mood without a substance. The child is doing it just with a substance.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, any sort of addiction to any substance is about altering your mood and numbing out.
It's just reaching to that point, but with what means is. So here when you say like alcohol is like one of the means to like his means of achieving that, like whatever, like when you say numbing pain. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is something that the child has picked up from the house, and then the parents have a problem saying that this is what he's learned from outside.
Yeah.
But they fail to see that this is the pattern that runs in the house. This is just for an example that I've given, but this is what generally happens. If you see behaviors of children, it generally does go back to behaviors that they have learned at home.
Yeah. And also like when you say that if if parents fight, like you see the fight, but they like what they do later on to make up to that fight, like we don't see. And also at home people don't usually apologize. So like I've seen like so many like families even in my home also. So if like me and my sister fight, or if me and my parents or my parents, like anyone fight, the things just become normal. Like in a sense you just start talking normally, but you don't apologize. I think that is like one of the negatives of that is that you're not acknowledging your mistake. Like for example, if I did something wrong, when I go apologize to my parents, that means that I'm acknowledging my mistake and I'm owning up to my mistakes. Like if you're not acknowledging, that means that you're not owning up to that, like you're just running away. Like that will reflect like on your future partner maybe, or your friends. So yeah.
It'll reflect highly on your communication skills.
Mm.
You have acknowledged that you've done something wrong. That is there. Guilt is there inside. Any human will go through all of these emotions. We are human and we will go through these emotions at one point or the other.
Yeah.
Right. Acknowledging it, of course, in a way that you know it, you're aware of it. But when you apologize and you put it into communication, you're bringing it into reality.
Yeah.
And if I say, okay, I'm so sorry, I'm late by 5 minutes, I shouldn't have kept you waiting. Right? It is acknowledging that, okay, I have been late, I am sorry, I will try my best to not repeat this again.
Yeah,
and
so
saying sorry, thank you, no issues. Saying sorry, thank you are very underrated things. Even in friendships, people say what, sorry and thank you, and which I don't believe in. It really furthers communication.
Yeah, they're very important. They are called like magical words for a reason. Like
it furthers communication. These are communication skills that everyone needs to have. And children need to be taught, and this needs to be put into let's say more forms of awareness.
Yes. Yeah. And also, with respect to movement, right? Uh, you're actually living in the moment. Like you're not thinking about anything. Like for example, when you're doing something, like for example, if you're walking or if you're working out or if you're dancing or if you're singing, if you're painting, most of it is occupied by what you're doing in that moment. So like all which might be like a depressive thoughts or overthinking and all that, like it won't happen because you're living in the moment, right?
Again, so when we're moving, most often what happens is that we are moving from experiences that drive us, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, okay, and when I say the body has wisdom, it does. um I'm thinking of an example that I can give. um okay, so there was this, while I was going through my coursework, okay, when I was studying to be a therapeutic movement facilitator, there was this one activity where we had to take a piece of cloth and we had to keep moving with it. Okay, we just had to keep moving with it, and if we felt like we had to keep any part of the body covered, we can do that with that piece of cloth, right? And it sounds like a very simple basic activity, like you think you can just keep doing this or this and it'll be fine. um, and this activity was almost for like 20-25 minutes, you know. um, and we kept moving with and we had cloth of different texture. Like one was like very thin, like a shawl, like a stole. And from that, like we had the thickest, let's say like a quilt or like a actual, heavy cloth. So we could pick up whatever we liked. And I started moving. It was fine. In the beginning, everyone was very dreamy about it. Everyone was very, let's say, it was the legit, just those actual, turns with the dupattas and all of that. Later, when we were asked to cover a part of the body, suddenly I can see my fellow classmates breaking down. I can see myself feeling this, depth of emotion that I've never felt. I felt so, for me, I was just wrapping it around my hands. I was just wrapping it around my hands. I just kept going over it on and on and on. And suddenly, I burst. I just burst into tears. It's a very simple movement and a very simple prop, an everyday prop, right? A dupatta is an everyday prop. We've been playing with it since children, like to, role play your mother or teacher. Suddenly, that has become of such relevance because I, as an individual, have attached so much meaning to it. I felt so safe. That was my safety and security. It became my safe net in that process to hold the emotions that I was going through, to hold the depth of emotions that I was going through, and we had an activity to make sure we gave proper closure to the prop and leave it aside, because that is also important. Now that I've held it with so much, because if the facilitator would have said just leave it on the side and come back to a circle, sit and talk about your experience, I would have felt horrible about it. Trust me. I would have been like, that is my safety there. I have put all of my safety, my comfort, and my depth over there. And you haven't even asked me to say goodbye. Right? So, this is how movement in the smallest ways can make you feel such depth. It was just this movement of mine that made me feel safe. That made me feel comfortable. It made me feel like someone held me, and that someone was me. So it is just that we do, of course, come into when we are moving in terms of, let's say, an activity, gymming, or we're doing dancing. There's a purpose to it. We're doing it with a purpose, and we go,
Oh
and we
yeah.
can obviously like leave it away. But when you come into movement therapy, there's a lot that plays out
Okay.
unconsciously. There's a lot that plays out because this is therapy in proper form. This is proper therapy. right? And in therapy, there will be things that will obviously come out. This, even if you're talking about it, not talking about it, we just need to provide a medium through which the client can express.
Do you think energy of the room is also important? Like if you're doing something like this,
Of course,
so
of course.
so like when you as a class, like when you were rolling your hands through the dupatta, do you think energy bouncing back from the room also played a vital role there?
The thing is, I was very comfortable with my group. Our group was very closely knit, and we had worked 2 modules before that very closely. So I had built a rapport with almost everybody, and I had worked with each person in various activities. Right. So for me, that activity was a very individual activity. Everyone was doing their own thing, even I was doing my own thing. For me to trust that space, I don't think if it was another group, I would be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because I went through that group process with these guys. I know that whatever I put out in the group will be held, will
It's
be,
safe.
yeah, it is safe. It will not be invalidated. It will not be condemned. It will not be
Judged.
exaggerated. It will not be judged.
Mm.
And the one thing that every human wants to not be judged.
Yeah.
And when you're getting that space, you're allowed to be yourself. You will allow yourself to be yourself.
Do you take breaks sometimes? Like, do you think, do you ever get very overwhelmed with your clients, like by their problems, and like, do you ever like take a break?
Of course, it's very important. Self care is very important for a counselor or anybody in this profession, in the mental health profession. Self care is very important. Firstly. Secondly, yes, the stories that clients can bring in can overwhelm you. Again, but what part of it is overwhelming you? Do you start relating with them? Again, you have to put yourself in therapy to check with that, in supervision to check with that, right? So what people see is the 1 hour of work that we do with a client. What they don't see is the hours of work that we put into ourselves, so that I don't start relating to the client. I don't start feeling sympathetic, because it's important for me as a counselor and as a therapist to hold that space and not judge, not put myself in it, and to see their frame of reference outside my frame of reference. I leave my frame of reference,
Bias,
and
like leave all the bias and then like look at it, right?
of course, because when I'm sympathizing, I cannot be empathetic about it. I
Yeah.
cannot be compassionate, right? And when I'm sympathizing, there will maybe some sort of transference will happen. I might start seeing the clients, let's say somebody who's much younger than me. I might start having this transference of them like being my child, which is unhealthy to the process. It is going to hinder them.
Yeah.
It is going to hinder the client's process. So I have to get into therapy. I have to get myself into, I have to have supervision, therapy, whatever it is, whatever it takes for me to, uh, you know, get that break.
So
You
will
know,
you feel like if you're taking a break from therapy and if someone else is if you're going to someone else for therapy, like when you're overwhelmed, like is it you who is going to decide when you're gonna go back to taking therapies, or like will someone else say if you're fit to go back, or how does that work?
see, at the end of the day, you have to be ready to do what you want to do, right? When I finished my course, I was not, I didn't start my work again, right, for a while. And then the lockdown happened. Then I had to slowly start my clients again. Through that time, I was in therapy. Even now, I'm in therapy, right? I'm continuously in therapy because I feel I need it. I feel that is my space. That 1 hour is for me and nobody else. That 1 hour, I go and talk about whatever I want to talk about, work through whatever issue I want to work through, instead of, you know, going and talking about it over and over again, or just ranting about something. Get it?
Yeah.
So that is the decision I have taken, that I am going to be in therapy for this much time. When I feel ready, I will be okay with it. When I feel up for it. And I think it's a personal choice. But again, counseling without therapy, without you being in therapy, is absolutely, it's nonsense. I'm sorry, but it is just utter nonsense. Please do not believe any therapist or counselor who thinks they don't need therapy, or they have not been to therapy. Always check with your counselor or therapist whether they have been for therapy, and whether they are in supervision if needed, like if that is needed. Always check if they have had supervision. If they're very experienced and all of that, please ask them that if they have been to therapy before. The client has all rights to do this. Please be more aware of what you're getting yourself into. There are a lot of therapists and counselors who are doing really, really unhealthy work. And I have had clients, and I've had my own friends go to people feeling like shit and coming back. And they said, if this is how
Oh,
therapy is, I don't want to go. And I said, what did they do? I asked them because I was just curious. And I was like, what did she ask you to do that you felt so bad about it? And I was trying to be a friend. And she said, I told her that I'm unable to do this, and she's asking me to do homework. And I said, what? That is so unempathetic.
yeah.
That is so unempathetic. A person is coming and telling you that I am not able to get out of bed. And this counselor has asked this person to record their mood every hour. And I said, what makes you think this person's not getting out of bed? Do you really think this person just wants to sit and note their mood hourly? Of course not. They want somebody who can meet them at the bed. Mentally,
Empathy is the key, right?
they want someone who can relate to the fact that it's okay for you to stay in bed, but what's making you stay there? You don't have to change it, but what is making you stay there? And just understanding what is making you stay in that bed and what that bed signifies. We as individuals hold a lot of metaphors. It's easier for us to talk in metaphors. Love as deep as the ocean. The ocean becomes the metaphor. The depth of the ocean becomes the metaphor, right?
Yeah.
We talk and we have a lot of metaphors. We associate to a lot of things. And that is where I feel DMT is of brilliant use, because it is the easiest way to make our inner worlds more tangible. Right? Because we're putting it into movement, you're giving it form, you're putting it into art, you're giving it form, you're putting it into, you're using a prop, you're projecting onto the prop.
You're bringing it to life, like you feel more lively.
You're making it more a part of your reality. Like how I made that dupatta my safety and my security. I put it out there. It's the same way. And that is where I feel like if we look at DMT and how it's growing, I feel like it can transcend all forms of therapy, because if we are looking at using movement, which is so basic and universal to everybody, right? That means we are able to break language barriers, cultural barriers that we have been dealing with for a long time. And when these two can be broken, then what can be more better than that?
Yeah. And also when you say that body has wisdom, your body knows, like in a sense, so like if there is a physical wound, then your body does what it has to do by itself. Like for example, if you burn your hand, like blisters happen, right? So you'll have blisters on the wound, and they happen in order to save the inner layers of the skin. So like everything that happens in the body, like it happens for a reason, right? Like in order to like protect itself. So even like using the same logic, even psychologically, like when you say that like body has wisdom, like it makes like absolute sense to me.
A lot. There's this really amazing book I read. It's called The Body Keeps the Score.
Body keeps the score.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in this, he talks about how our body stores trauma, and how it affects us, how it affects your brain chemistry, and trust me, there are a lot of people, including, I'm sure, even like me, I'm sure if I go through again like one more rigorous year of training and things like that, there will be something that comes up. There will be some part of my body that I have stored something in. We actively do this, but we just don't know about it. Your
Like
body actively holds memories, holds experiences, and it has wisdom.
in the form of vibrations, like how do you think the body like holds memories? The form of energy or in the form of vibrations? Or,
You can put it as energy, you can say vibration, you can say whatever. But at the end of the day, if you're anxious, you're feeling it in your gut, right?
yes.
Suddenly you have an uncomfortable conversation with someone, your head starts hurting.
Mm.
What is that? Your body is giving you a signal. It's giving you a clear cut signal that this is too much for you or this is not okay for you. When you're feeling happy, you feel jumpy. The energy is gone to the legs, right? So whatever be it, your body knows. So at the end of the day, how can we use that wisdom to make sure we get therapeutic benefits?
So is it like good to listen to the body all the time?
Of course. I
So
mean, I'm a movement.
I know, no, no, no,
I'm
no.
a
Like what I'm trying to say here is that, so for example, if you going on stage, like if it's making you nervous, or if it's making you, if something is making you anxious, do you think that like listening to the body in a way and stop doing it, or like do you think like we need to work on it? Like my question like comes from that point of view.
Okay, so I'll just take this example of your stage fright. Uh, the fear, the itself, it has it there. There is fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, whatever it is, right? So if we deal with that in therapy or with that in movement therapy, then of course you are going to feel before every performance. I feel nervous too, you
Mm.
know, going on stage. That have you heard this whole term called eustress and distress?
No.
Okay, eustress is the good kind of stress that kind of drives you to go and like do your
Okay.
work and like, get things done. Right? Distress is when it becomes,
Appro-
too much for you and
yeah.
it's like taking a toll on your life. Right? So your body is going to always help you in that way. If there is an intense reaction to going on stage, that means there is some sort of fear, and
Yes.
every fear can be worked through. Trust. I was working in this rehabilitation center, and there is this book on the AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's in that book, it clearly says that, driven by 1,000 forms of fear, we alcoholics, but generally, like it goes on and it says we alcoholics, but I think that's every person. We are all driven by fear. At the end of the day, we all are. But how we work through it is what finally comes out.
I think that's where like human beings evolved, right? Like we, like how we evolved, like fear and survival was always like the major portion. Like fear of being killed. Like for example, back if we go to the days where we were living in caves and we were cavemen, it's always survival and a fear of being killed or a fear of dying, right? Like that kept us alive and like thriving. I think that there is a lot of instincts that come as like we human beings we evolved, right? There are so many instincts that come from like innate caveman instincts. Do you think so too?
Of course, see, in that way, let's say when you're talking about fear of like just survival, fear of dying, uh, the thing to perish, we might perish, but that's when you can be your most creative self. you know it is in that depth that you can actually, it is in that fear that you can actually think, if you think properly. Because when you're in that phase of, okay, I need to survive, you will start looking for food, water,
Yeah.
right, shelter. And then suddenly from cavemen we had like these, bamboo sticks as shelter.
Yes.
Okay, fish being taken out of water and eaten. you know Look at the ways in which your brain can think when you're put in a situation. And that's the thing, again, I revert back to, is that most people are uncomfortable with uncomfortable emotions because that is what we're taught to. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be feeling this way, right? But the
It's
thing is,
bad.
It's bad. Yeah. Um, but the thing is, uncomfortable emotions actually are the best soil, like the best soil for growth.
Hmm.
I'll tell you why. There was this one time during my internship for my course that I was doing, and I was heading a group. And suddenly the whole group says they don't want to participate in this. They find it bullshit, the movement therapy session. They literally told me, and this is, I was working with people who are chemically dependent. Yeah. I refrain from calling them alcoholics or addicts. They're people, individuals with chemical dependency issues, period. The entire group, like four of them out of the six, four of them just go like, this is nonsense. We don't want to do it. Right. And that is the first time I saw them reacting. In 4 sessions, that is the first time I saw them reacting. And a trait of somebody who is chemically dependent is that they will push your boundaries, which they tried to do with me as well. They thought I will get affected and I will have like a really bad time and I will cry about it or whatever. And I said, cool, okay. I know you want to sit outside. Why don't you just decorate a corner, take some art material, call it whatever you want to call it, you time out or whatever it is. Decorate one corner of your room and you can go sit there. And every time I come into the session, I will hang it on that corner itself. You can choose which corner of the room you want it to be. And whoever wants to go sit there whenever can go sit there. Right. The initial thing, like my initial reaction inside when they told me that was that, oh shit, am I failing at my job, you know? But that doubt inside of me, that feeling of shit, maybe I'm not doing good enough, you know, that was the reason for me to start getting creative, where I was like, okay, you don't like it, that's okay, I understand. That means I'm doing something right for you to not like it.
Yeah.
because a person with chemical dependency is away from their emotions. That means there's something that's happening within them that they don't want to feel it,
They're trying to run away from something.
and they don't have the substance in the rehab. So what are they going to do? They're going to rebel. I said, okay. That's when I became my creative self. I was like, you know what, let me use from what I have learned. Create a timeout corner, decorate it as much as you want. They called it free parking. And it's very, very it's actually really funny how that's how it reflects their state. They want a free park. They want a free park. You know, they want to free park their vehicles in their seats of emotion. Do you see how, like, how it reflects their actual state of their mind?
They want
If you start
rest
looking
from
into,
something.
yeah, they if you start looking into it, and in the rehab, their schedule was very time to time. 6 o'clock they have to wake up, this, that, they have to do this by this. 1 minute late, they get a pull up.
Oh.
Right? So for about 3 to 4 sessions, my sessions were all about just going and sitting there, and I will play music for them. I used to just play music for them. Then one fine day, I think they felt bad. I don't know what happened. Shifted. I walked in, I put the free parking poster there that they had made, and I came and I sat in the circle, whatever it was. All of them came and joined, and they said, what are we doing today? I said, oh, okay. What do you want to do today? And then they said, you were listening to songs the other day, you know, you played songs. Can I give you a list of songs and can you get me those songs? I said, of course, why not? We'll work through it. And imagine, the songs they gave me are all reflective of the way they are feeling. They had given me songs by this thing called Imagine Dragons.
Yeah.
Radioactive. There was another song they had. There was Imagine by John Lennon. There was Another Day for You and Me in Paradise. Just look at it. They're all songs of hope and power. They had songs of We Will Rock You. These are the song choices that they had. And these are all songs of hope and power. The underlying theme was hope and power. And that's what they wanted to feel. Because at one point in the rehab, they were all going through a step which makes them feel hopeless. You know, step one is that we are hopelessly, you know, that the substance has taken control over us. Right? That is what step one of the Alcoholics Anonymous is. that, we admit that it has taken over our control, like, that it drives us now and things like that. And imagine to feel that hopeless, and this is how they're reflecting. So they're actually communicating.
Yeah, they
It's
want
just that
power over their life. Like they want things to be in their control, maybe for the better.
of course, imagine being in a rehab where you're told to wake up at a certain time, and you're told to end your day a certain way, and then there's no substance for you, and all the coping mechanisms you had till now have to be left, right?
Yeah.
How that's a place where you feel very hopeless and powerless,
Yeah.
And
Demotivated also.
these are the themes that they had. And I said, okay, cool, let's take that up. We heard a few songs about hope. Like, for them, this was just songs that they're listening to, different from the rehab, what the rehab was giving them. And I said, cool, now can I tell you something? I just noticed that you guys were resonating so much with these songs. I think there is an underlying theme of hope and power. Can you embody what hope looks like to you? Can you bring it into your body? And can you move to how hope feels? What would hope feel like? And everyone started movements that were, coming from the ground to up, like ground to up. They were all getting up, and this is the kind of movement they had, the movement vocabulary. So getting back to that. So do you see how we use small things, something as songs, to convey what we want to feel or how we're feeling, right? It's just that people need to be trained enough to pick it up in a session. You just need enough training to pick it up. And there is no amount of training that can help you unless and until you understand that you are human and you go through this. And emotions are always signals. They are just telling you how you have to feel at a certain point in time. They're not something you're meant to dwell in, right? When you're dwelling in it, what happens is that you are unable to sort of find a way out of it, right? That means you've not been taught or you've not seen these behaviors. Where will you learn it from? If I'm asking you to prepare for your 10th syllabus without giving you a textbook, how are you going to learn? That's exactly what it is. So that's the kind of experiences I've had, is that movement in the smallest way, sound in the smallest way, music in the smallest way, art in the smallest way, can bring out so much, because we as humans relate to everything.
Yes. We see ourselves in everything, and we try to we like something when we see a part of ourselves in it, or when there's a sense of relatability to it.
Yeah. And most people are very unaware of what they're doing. And that's the reason why they get caught up in very toxic relationships, friendships, be it whatever. I'm not joking. A lot of people are unaware of how and what they're projecting onto another person, what they're making the other person do. There are very few people who are actually healthy for each other. And we've all gone.
Empathy, right? Like empathy, like even there are like two things in a toxic relationship. One, if you are putting out toxicity. Two, or if you're taking the toxicity, like both like reflect from the childhood, right? Like I had the same conversation in my previous episodes where so like you as a child, if you're looking at your parent and if you see that they are taking shit, then means that even like toxic, if you're in a toxic relationship, then that feels like normal to you. And if you see like your parents throwing toxicity, then you end up throwing it and you don't even see a problem in it because that's a normal to you.
Yeah, that's normal to you. And that's absolutely, anything other than that would be abnormal to you. A peaceful household would be abnormal to you. That is one of the reasons why a lot of people get stuck in abusive, toxic relationships, because they're so used to it. They don't know what it is to be peaceful or just to be content. That is scary. That is an unknown territory. Because in a toxic or an abusive pattern, they know the loop. They know this is going to happen. Shit's going to go down, and then they'll again make it up, and then again it's the loop. So most people are just looking for certainty. We are all looking for certainty. The pandemic has taken a toll on a lot of people because it's so uncertain. It's made us so uncertain, right? We are just looking for certainty, and wherever we find certainty, even if it's an abusive, toxic, unhealthy pattern, we will live in it, we will stay in it.
What do you think about narcissistic behavior? Like, do you categorize as so you categorize as healthy and unhealthy, right? Like a not good or bad. So, uh, like while I was reading about like narcissism or narcissistic behavior, then I've seen psychologists say that it's it's like people who are narcissistic, they don't change. Like what do you think about that?
Again, change needs to come from the individual, right? If um, if it's a proper personality disorder, then it's very difficult, you know, because the person needs to be aware of what they're doing, and most of the times they're not aware
Yeah.
of what they're doing. They will go on manipulating, they will go on gaslighting, they will go on doing these things, and they will not be, in fact they will make the other person feel like they are wrong and this person's right,
Yes.
you know. To
Yes.
come to awareness to such a pattern is a very difficult thing, and once they are aware, nobody wants to stay in it, to be very honest. Nobody wants to be the manipulator, nobody wants to be the gaslighter, nobody wants to be the abuser.
Like it's the
Nobody.
like being aware that I am so and so is what you're saying, right? Like being aware of what problems you're
Awareness
going to
is
cause.
the key. Awareness is the key to anything. If I want to change a behavior of mine, how am I going to change even if I'm not aware about it?
Yeah.
Right? That then you're asking for way too much from the person. That's when you're expecting too much. To expect a person to change without having awareness,
Yeah.
right?
No, maybe they might act like they've changed, but like until proper awareness of the problem, they're not really changed.
That's what I said. It has to
Yeah.
come from within, you know?
So I had a friend. So uh like this friend, like I think that he's a narcissist. I think so. Like because so they he always wants to be the one who is always right. Like by default he's right all the time. So if something is wrong, it's always the other person who is wrong. So this guy, so his dad had an affair. So so he growing up, like he saw his mom feeling like so bad, he saw his mom suffer. So he kept saying, like I knew him from from a really long time, and then he kept saying that like one day I'm gonna be a better dad, like than my dad, like I'm gonna be a better dad. Like that always kept like motivating him. And then until so he was in a relationship, but then he was also doing the same thing what his dad did. So like externally like he tried projecting that he's somewhat different or he's somewhat better, but he kept saying that he's better, but he kept doing the same thing that his dad did. Like even being in a relationship, he had an affair with someone else, like online. And that was such a surprise because uh, like later on when I realized that like kids pick up traits from their parents, uh, like here he's literally seeing like what his mom went through. And like he kept saying that he wanted to be a better dad than his no, he said that he was a better person than his dad. but but subtly, subconsciously, he picked up the traits, like which was such a surprise to me.
Mhm. But in a way, if you see, again, reverting back to what I said, kids will always go out in the world, see various behaviors, but they will only pick up the ones they have known from home, the ones they're familiar with, right? Of course, I'm sure there is full intention that this person wants to be a better version, but maybe this person doesn't know how to. And maybe um, this relationship that the parents share is
Yeah.
the only way how he can connect to another person. There is no connection otherwise,
No, but
right?
he's saying like, so through words he knows what's ideal. Like he knows, and he's trying to be that person, I guess, by saying that he is it. The thing is, there's a lack of acknowledgement. Like I don't see, like everybody, like they do something wrong and then they correct it and then they become better human being. but there needs to be acknowledgement, right? Yeah, like since there is no acknowledgement, the problem is not being solved.
See, again, let's say with anything, let's just say, like I said, it's a loop, right? And they will be stuck in the loop for the longest time. And the loop does not, the loop does include periods where they will feel bad for their victim and they will say, oh my God, I need to be a better person. That is a part of the loop. That phase will come. But again, it will go to behaviors where they're going to do the same thing that's hurting them.
Yeah.
So it's a loop that he's stuck in, you know? It's a loop, and the only way to break it is to understand. Once you get there to a point where, okay, I'm doing something wrong, instead of going back to doing the behaviors that he does, is to find another way out of it. And that's going to take some self work. That's going to take some deep, experience, or like an inner calling, or a rock bottom.
Yeah, so yeah, and also in relationships, right? Like for example, if my boyfriend or girlfriend, if she's feeling bad or if they're feeling depressed, then by default the partner expects the other. Like for example, if I am feeling depressed, then I expect my partner to make me feel better. Like in a sense, like we, rather than seeking for professional help, we depend on our like partners or friend to make our feel better. I think that's where the toxicity begins, because they are not well aware of how to make anyone feel better, for that matter, because they don't know that, like psychology, right? Like they don't know the subject, like they're not professionals. So like I think that, like when you're putting all your like when you're talking all the negativity that is inside you, and you're seeking for help, and if the other person, like they don't know how to solve it, I think like that's when the relationship becomes toxic.
More than toxic, this has become, there is a shift in the expectations and responsibilities in the relationship now. You are not responsible for the other person's happiness. Of course, together you build a relationship that is a good one, right? Let's say something that is healthy for both of you. You both are growing in it. You both are, both of your needs are being met. Safety, security, loyalty, commitment, all of these are being met. But primarily, the partner is not responsible to make you feel better, right? And this is something I think also the people pick up a lot, and I think movies in that way, a lot of the things we watch contributes a lot, because somehow
Yeah.
the guy or the girl knows how to fix everybody's mood perfectly and get things to like a happy ending, which doesn't really happen. Also, communication is the key. If the partner is feeling low, maybe just saying, I'm feeling low, I need some space. A lot of people have a lot of difficulty saying this as well,
Yeah.
because if you say space, then they will be like, oh, this person's going to leave me alone.
Yeah.
They're going to just leave me alone. And being abandoned also is a most of our behaviors are attachment, are picked up from our parents, and our attachment styles are formed with our parents. If it's a fearful, avoidant, dismissive, whatever the kind of attachment, there are 4 different styles of attachment. Whatever you fall in, you will exhibit that kind of behavior only because you are run by those fears, right? And one more thing I also always notice is that when you said that, like you expect the partner to sort of make you feel better, right? You can expect the partner to be there for you,
Yeah.
but if you're expecting the partner to completely like, you know, parent you and all of that, that's a lot of expectation,
Yes.
first of all, the other person, which nobody can fulfill. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Nobody is meant to take up that sort of a responsibility, because when you're in a relationship, I'm sure people generally, I mean, there are young relationships when you're younger as well, but when you're older, like let's say once you're an adult, you are responsible and you're an adult, right? You are to see things that way. You cannot be a child always. Again, there's a difference. The child in you, the inner child, yes, of course, be that. That gives you the spunk, the spontaneity, the childishness, all of that. Very good. The fun element of it, good. Keep that alive. But don't try to fulfill the needs that you couldn't fulfill with your parents in your relationship. That is when it becomes toxic.
Yeah.
When you're trying to fulfill a need that you haven't gotten from somewhere else and you're putting that on your partner, first of all, that's way too much expectation from that person. I'm sorry, whoever that person is. Oh, that's a lot for anybody to take.
Yeah.
Like if my partner expects me to like fulfill their needs for their unmet needs, I would be like, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
walking out. I can't do this.
Yeah. That's
And
true.
we've all
Actually.
done this at one point or the other. We've put it in friendships. We've put it not. It doesn't have to be relationships as such. We've put it in friendships. We've put it in relationships. We've put it in loads of other places. Your unmet needs, if you're aware of it, are actually drive you a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's very subtle. Like, because, so, like after my first relationship, so in my first relationship, I thought that I was the person who was putting in more efforts than the other person. Like, I thought that because, like, each person has their way of showing love, right? But if 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 I think that the only way of showing is my way, and if the other person is not showing it in my way, that means that it's not love or something. But I felt that, so I had this thought where I was putting more efforts uh, to, like, in that relationship, like either to communicate or either to um, like put efforts in meeting the person or talking to them, communicating. So that was so subtle that even in my future relationships also, like, I realized this recently, that, like, if I like someone now, there is always this subtle feeling that, okay, I am the one who's putting in more efforts because of my past. So I realized this, so now I can work on it. So in a sense, like, now I can talk myself out of it, like, see, this is not the way, like each way of doing things. So like this way, like a simple acknowledgement can solve like so many problems.
One of my teachers told me one thing. She told me a very beautiful thing in one of our classes. She said, um, understanding that there needs to be a change, that a behavior needs to be changed is change in itself. Understanding that something needs to be changed is change in itself.
Yeah,
You know? And that's one of
that's
the
so beautiful.
wisest things I've heard. That is why acknowledgement is so important, to acknowledge what you've done wrong, to acknowledge how you're feeling, to acknowledge, what you've done or what the other person's done or what the other person's made you feel. Because without it, you can't really go anywhere, is what I feel. And
Because
then you're flying.
sometimes things are at a very subconscious level and we don't even know that we have it. So like when you're acknowledging it, that means that you are keeping the problem pretty clear. So when you know the problem very clear, then subconsciously you find solutions to solve it.
Yeah, you will start looking for ways to solve it, because nobody likes having a problem with them for the rest of their life, or nobody
Yeah.
likes feeling like a problem. And the whole thing of like to have a problem is to solve it, like problem solving,
Yeah.
conflict resolution. These are all things that need to, like, it's a process.
I think that if we are living life, right? Like when I say living, like whatever I'm doing now, it is me being lively, right? Like in the
Got it.
present. Yeah. So I think that most of the problems with respect to like psychological problems, all that, like it comes from either like a past, either from past or from fear of something that might happen in the future. So like uh, we have always been trained to look up to something, strive for something, and like we are never trained to live in the moment. Like even growing up, like like goal setting is such a crucial thing in school. Like you need to set up a goal, you need to strive for it. Like where is the element of doing there? Like it's always about the goal, it's always about like going there, which is making people feel like what they don't have right now. Like when you want something, that means you're defining what you don't have right now.
Right.
So like it all comes from an element of not being in the moment, or like like living life.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. What I'm also saying is that these are like goal setting and everything. They need to be realistic. it's good to have a plan for the future, right? Let's say in like 5 years, I see myself, working more, maybe going to a few places, traveling, taking my work forward, right? As in the whole world of DMT. That's what I see myself doing. But um, I completely understand when you're saying that they're not taught to actually work for it today so that you have it tomorrow.
Yes.
They're just asked to let go of this maybe and look at you need to have a secure job. How am I going to get a secure job? No one's going to tell me that, right? Or they'll tell me you have to become a doctor or an engineer. These are the only two ways of having a secure job, right? Nobody tells me that tap into what I am good at the most, right? For the longest time, I didn't know. I was all set to be a doctor. After my 12th, I was like, cool, I come from a family of doctors. I will go into either doctors or I'll become a doctor or a civil servant, right? These are the only two options I had. Okay. And having done psychology in my 11th and 12th, there was something that shifted, because I didn't want to do, after my 10th, I just didn't want to do medicine, because I just had irrational fears of needles and like blood and all of that. And I realized, shit, I am not doctor material. So option 1 failed. Option 2, civil servant. That's what everyone's happy with at my house. Everyone's going to be super proud, and I'm going to be secure. I'm going to have a job, and I'm going to live my life to the fullest. But what I didn't understand at that point was that I am a person who has an innate need for expression, right? I have this thing. I am very expressive. I talk with my body a lot, and I love doing it, right? I love being in creative spaces. I love being there, I just thought, okay, it's good to have like dance and all these on the side. Okay, dance, whatever, painting I do, whatever, everything on the side, very good. I'll have like a proper job. Literally 7 years down the line, 8 years down the line, I'm doing DMT, which is an amalgamation of psychology and dance. Two things that I'm most passionate about, right? Which is so far away from doctor and civil servant, right? If only people, and if let's say only, and I'm not putting this on people as well, like that they should have known this about me or whatever. No, if only I was just made to think in directions where I was just like, okay, this is not the only thing, I can do this also.
Opportunity to explore other things.
Yeah, and explore and fail, because failure is seen as such a big downfall. Such a big downfall. And trust me, I have not failed once ever since I've taken up psychology. I have not failed once ever since I've taken up DMT.
Because
my grades have always...
Because you love what you're doing.
Absolutely. And to be very honest, I think the subject helped me more in understanding myself, in being more aware about myself. And that for me is truly being human. So I am somebody who's very drawn to, like, if I believe in something, I believe it very, very strongly. And I think you can only be the best version of yourself if you become truly human. And for you to be truly...
Don't you think that depends on like what, like people have their own definition of like being human, right?
Of course. But at the end of the day, let me tell you, we all breathe. We all breathe, right? We all have emotions. Tell me one person who doesn't have emotions or who doesn't feel something. Even if they don't express it, they feel it.
They feel it, yeah.
Right? For me, being close to that was what mattered. To be able to have that kind of awareness where whenever I'm feeling something, where is it coming from? That was very important for me. And that for me meant to be a better human. Just to be aware about yourself so that you don't go hurting other people.
Yeah.
Right? Initially, it started off with, I'll be a better human if I don't hurt someone else. Right? But then later it became about, okay, if I can't hurt someone, or if I don't want to hurt someone, I need to learn about myself, because unconsciously or maybe subconsciously, I might be hurting somebody by doing something,
No, but don't you think that like people, like for example, you need to think about yourself too, right? Like sometimes something that might make some things that might not hurt someone might hurt you.
Yeah.
So when you do something for yourself and that is hurting someone else, then you're still hurting someone, right?
Okay, so let's say, suppose there is a toxic relationship that I'm in, right? I'm going to leave that relationship because it's better for me. I will grow as a person. It's obviously going to hurt, but the responsibility of their hurt is not mine,
Huh. Yeah.
because I first have to take care of myself.
Yeah.
Also, people have a very, very, let's say, different connotation altogether of the word selfish. People think selfish is a really bad word. You can't be selfish.
Yeah.
And I say, no, put yourself first. Because if I don't understand what's happening with me, how can I be like I understand you? It's a very
Yeah.
stupid statement. And if I'm leaving an abusive relationship, of course it's going to hurt the person. But do I save them from not being hurt by hurting myself?
Yeah.
Of course not. You have to look out for yourself. That is when you learn to stand up for yourself. Resilience. That is when you learn to listen to your inner voice. Your inner voice and your gut feeling will always tell you
Yes.
when something. You just have to learn to listen to your body.
But
You
the
just have
thing
to learn.
is, there are two things. Like one, what my gut feeling is telling, and the second is what I want. So sometimes if my body is telling something and my, like for example, not to do something, and I want something to happen in a certain way, then I try to create delusional thoughts.
Okay.
Yeah, like, so like for example, if my like when you meet someone, and I have seen this has worked with like most of the people whom I've talked to, the whom I have talked about this, is that the gut feeling tells something about that person. Like either this person is going to be like nice to you or not. Like if you have friendship with this person, like how is it gonna turn? But sometimes uh, they they say things to themselves like, nah, like that might not be the case, because they want a friendship with that person. So this particular want has nullified their gut feeling, like they created a like delusion, is what I'm trying to say.
See, um, I'll give you an example. Okay, suppose I go to a party. I'm feeling very uncomfortable, right? But I want to be there because they're my friends, and I have that need for connection,
Mm.
right? But I'm not feeling good at all. I'm not feeling good about the conversations they're having. I just don't relate to them. I just don't. No, no, I just don't want to be there, right? Which is something that will make me comfortable. If I walk out of the party, it'll make me comfortable. But I will be alone. I'll have to go back to my room alone, right? But again, it's important to see what need you're operating from.
Yeah.
Then the need for connection, the need for, what is it? What is it that's driving you? And trust me, most humans, especially this year, we've realized the importance of touch, connection, and just be. We are social beings. We really are social beings,
Yes.
right? The reason why these social media apps are thriving is because we love to be socially connected. That is a part of us. It's different how we taint it and corrupt the whole cycle of the need to be social by external validation and other things that
Yeah.
come in, pressure and all that. That's a different ball game altogether. But we as humans are social beings, and there's nothing wrong in being that way. You're being your absolute self, the self that you're made to be.
Yeah.
That's it. So you will, of course, be in. Again, there are a lot of things that you will do sometimes to sort of like quiet down your gut feeling.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
experiences you give your gut feeling
Yeah.
will determine whether it should start talking to you or not. If you don't listen to it 100 times, it's not going to tell you the next time, because the body also has a voice. It wants to be heard, right? So if you start listening to it, you start nurturing that gut feeling, nurturing it in the right way. Everything has a healthy way of
And
doing
also
it.
there's a thin line, right? Like, because I think that like whatever your gut says might not be logical. Like
Right.
sometimes we try to put that logic template over it, and if it doesn't fit, like we try to like not do it. And also there's an element of overthinking also, right? So there's a very like fine line between like you actually knowing if this is your gut telling, or are those just your thoughts rambling around.
Also, I've noticed that whenever it's your gut telling you, it's a strong feeling.
Like it's something you feel,
Like,
like you can't express it.
yeah, like you just know it. You just have a hunch, you know it, and it's damn strong. There's no confusion or two ways about it. It's just, okay, this person's gonna do, this person's trouble.
Yeah,
Or, okay, what you're doing is not right.
yeah,
It's never, maybe this person is, or, you know, it will come out in thoughts like that. And also overthinking. This is something I have seen a lot of people use. If you're overthinking, there's a reason why you're overthinking.
hmm.
The reason why you're not able to let go of that thought, and then there's a reason why it's going on in a loop.
Yeah.
We can't just dismiss it by saying it's overthinking. It's a
No, no,
very
no. Like I'm not dismissing it. Like
no
I'm
no.
not.
I think when you look at it that way, I feel it's a little dismissive.
Yeah,
You're not actually addressing the need as to why you're overthinking. You're just saying it's overthinking and you're leaving it. So then you're dismissing that part, no?
yeah.
Like you're actually like reducing the, I don't know, like you're just reducing what it's actually trying
What
to
is
tell you.
trying to tell you? Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. That's the way I see it.
No, I think that like people have defined overthinking by uh, like the thoughts that they like this. So if it's a simple doing, and they're just adding like complicated thoughts to it, or there are like number of thoughts coming like over again. I think like that's how like people have defined like overthinking. Yeah, I know. Like
Also,
they've
people
put
don't
this as
understand.
negative.
Yeah. People don't understand half the words they use.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
not joking. They really don't.
yeah,
They're not aware about what the kind of words they're using, and the kind of meaning it can hold. I have been told by so many people that I overthink. I'm generally a little anxious. Okay. And I have been told, oh my God, you're overthinking. And at the end of the day, a couple of months later, what I would have thought is actually the right thing that happens. And everyone will be like, shit, how did you even like see it before? And I'm like, so don't come at me. Don't
yeah.
come at me and say I'm overthinking, you know?
Even I
Uh,
think that I defined overthinking to be like something, um, like I'm accepting that, like even I defined overthinking to be like something you should not think about, or maybe like try no, like just avoid it. Like,
yeah.
yeah, from now on, maybe I'll stop doing that.
Yeah, because there's a reason why it's coming up again and again. There's a reason why you're not able to let go of that thought. Maybe you have not made peace with it, or you've not acknowledged it in the first place, that it's a different need that's coming out, or it's a different part of your life being expressed. That's it. And honestly, once you deal with that, you will not have these recurring thoughts. I don't think, again, like it's miraculous the way your body works. How just one thought or just having acknowledgement to one thing can literally change the pathways in
Yeah,
your brain, can literally change the way which area of your brain lights up. you know there's a lot of research into this. There's a lot of research, and it's actually very, very surprising and astonishing as to how you can change neural pathways just by acknowledging what it actually is. The shift is completely different, and that is why I say your body has wisdom. Your body always does.
I think we should just feed our body with like, see, this is the problem. And I think like it starts off like the engine of like it starts off trying to resolve the issue, or it goes in the solution mode. I think we should just give our body a hint or just a smell of it, and then it starts tracking things down.
Also, what most people do is that when there's a problem, they want to solve it, right? But they don't realize that there's a problem process which has emotion in it, and then the solution. Most people like to skip this middle part and they just want to jump from problem to solution, right? But the process is what makes its way
Permanent.
to.
Yeah, I think that like you can just jump to a solution, but if you're not working on the emotional aspect of it, I think it's not permanent change. Like once you fix the emotional quotient, I think that like even though it'll take time, but like that's like a permanent way to go about.
There's a lot of learning. That's what I said. When you have a problem, when you have an uncomfortable feeling, that's actually rich soil for growth. Very, very rich soil for growth. And it's about what you plant into it. You know, you put a seed and water it is going to grow because it's very rich soil,
Yeah,
right? But you can also just like not use it.
yeah. And also,
So when you have,
I have a friend who keeps saying that you don't like you said that not all the problems like every time we look at problem we be like okay what's the solution to it, like we always go about like trying to solve that problem, right? So she keeps saying that not all problems like needs to be solved or go about finding solutions, or not all fears needs to be like for example like this is a basic human instinct, right? Like if I have a fear, then I'm like I need to get over it, like that's like a default, like if at all like you're scared of something, like people don't usually say like it's okay I'm scared of it, okay, like people just have hard time just saying that, like they always go about okay like how do I face my fear or like how do I solve my fear.
right. So in that way, when you look at it, fear drives people to do a lot of
Yeah,
things that are away from their behavior,
yeah,
right? So people just don't generally like being in a fearful state because you don't know what's going to come up. That's your raw self, right? It's a surprise to them as well. It's a surprise to other people as well. You'll see that, oh my God, this person's not like this, but suddenly this person was like this in this situation, right? It's important to address.
yeah,
It is important to address that, yes, I have a fear of this. There is, again, a need to solve it, get over it is again a need to sort of feel, you know, like you've gotten over it, right? Which also tells me that there's a fear of failure.
yeah,
The fact that you want to get over your fear of, let's say, I'm extremely fearful of cockroaches, okay? The fact that I need to get over my fear of cockroaches is that I can't fail at this. I can't be uncomfortable, which is sad at the end of the day because you can't expect to be comfortable all the time.
yeah,
You can't expect to be feeling comfortable all the time. Sadness is a very uncomfortable feeling, yet we have so many people who are ending up with a lot of mood disorders, a lot of let's say even an entire generation of people who are just sad, right? At the end of the day, we are anyway feeling it, right? Might as well acknowledge it, learn ways to sort of regulate that emotion and get on with it. It's not that you can avoid it. I'm not saying if you learn once how to regulate sadness, you will not feel sad again. Life is going to take its turn. Life is going to
yeah.
have, it's going to have its own ways of, getting
there
back
is
at you.
no there's no way about it, like you.
Yeah, and there's a quote, right? Nothing is permanent. That is itself like, you know, everything changes. Change is inevitable. Yeah, I think that's that's very well said. And it's okay to have these fears. It's just how you work around it.
Yeah. And also,
Because
like you said, like when we say that we need to overcome this, that means that we are defining that fearful state to be like a state from which people should improve. Like it's considered to be like a negative thing to have
weak,
fear.
and nobody likes to be weak.
Hmm.
And when you're weak, they think you're vulnerable, and nobody likes being vulnerable because then there is fear of exposure, right? So look how just one small thing can actually go down to the deepest root of yours, which is what people don't realize. And it's okay because that is the thing. This is what it means to be human. This is what it means to be human. And if you're comfortable with it, you will be at a point in life where, okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I just need to do this to feel better if I want to feel better, or else I just need to sit with it, process, introspect, get on with it. You don't take it as I'm feeling uncomfortable, this makes me a bad person. It doesn't define you. Emotions are just traffic signals. It just tells you when to go, when to stop, when to start your engine. That's it. No emotion is permanent.
Yeah.
You might feel sad today, you might feel happy tomorrow. Nothing is permanent. Your emotions are just phases, and they are just indicators for you to do the most healthiest thing for you. When you steal something, you feel guilty, right?
Yeah.
It's indicating from within that you shouldn't be doing this. This is not yours. You should be paying for it. That's the right way, because you pay for it, you get it. That doesn't mean you are a guilty person, you're guilt prone. What is being guilt prone? Every human is guilty.
Yeah. Of
When you're
something.
doing something, when you're doing something wrong, guilt will come up. So you can't label yourself as I'm a guilt prone individual. I'm very guilt prone.
Yeah,
Like
we
that
are
makes
all
me
very, we are all in a rush to label things. Like, I don't know why. Like, we have to define things, or we have to label things, we have to categorize things. I don't know why. Like, we as a society also, we want everything. Like, we define something and we label it as either like it's good or bad. Or like either you do it or you do not do it.
yeah, maybe I think because we've always seen things as white and black,
Yeah.
not the gray
Yeah.
and the colors in between. Or maybe as a society, we've always been taught to
Yeah.
fit into something, you know, be a good girl, be a good boy, be a this, be a that, you know. We're asked to fit into something or the other constantly. So we have to find something to define something, you know.
Yeah.
We have to be like, oh, I'm feeling this way. Oh, okay, I'm depressed. And that's a huge statement to make, because depression is not something that's easy to deal with.
Yeah.
People who are actually depressed deal with weeks and weeks of feeling worthless and hopelessness. Sorry. They feel hopeless, they feel worthless, they have zero motivation, right? And I'm not asking you to be sympathetic about it. I'm just asking you to understand the intensity about it.
Yeah.
You know,
Just don't make a joke about it, or
not
yeah,
a
like
joke,
it's
and don't categorize yourself because one
yeah.
day you had a fight with your parents, you're like, oh my god, I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Like, that's not okay for you to label yourself. And these labels are readily available nowadays, all thanks to the advent of internet, social media. These labels are all available. You can just pick it up from wherever and put it on.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times you will see this happening with your closest ones, the most healthiest people around you also. There will be labels put. There'll be labels of the sensitive one, the crybaby.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are all there. These are all going to be a part and parcel of life. But again, how are you going to deal with it? Then you need to understand that that's not your problem, that they're projecting onto you about something that's going on with them, you know. Because again, they might see sensitiveness as a weakness. That's the facade they put out in front of
Yeah.
you. But down, everyone is sensitive, everyone has their own needs, everyone has their own emotions.
I think
You
being
are,
sensitive, being empathetic, it is the strongest thing that a human can ever have. Like,
of course.
being sensitive, people, yeah, like you said, like being sensitive, it's being weak, right? Or being not strong. I think that you need to be really strong to be sensitive. Like, in the sense, uh, like when I say sensitive, I mean that you can catch the subtle emotions that the other person is feeling. Like, for example, if you're doing something and if it's making the other person uncomfortable, that means that you need to be sensitive enough to know that okay, this is making the other person uncomfortable.
And how are you going to be sensitive to somebody else's needs if you're not sensitive to your own needs? Right? If you're not sensitive to your own emotions, how are you going to even pick it up from another person?
Yeah.
Right? So that's the thing. Anything that you feel can be used to your strength. Like I gave you the example of when I felt this intense doubt that shit, I'm not competent enough. You know, when my group, just 4 people just walked out and sat, I was like, I'm doing a bad job. Like inside, that was the reaction. But outside, I had to keep a face of a therapist. Right? And so I said, okay, wait. I was like, In my heart, I told myself, I will deal with this self-doubt later. Okay, let me talk about the session right now. I'm not bringing in me into this. And then I took it back to therapy. I took it back to supervision. And then I was just made to realize, I was just nudged to think in this direction that despite having this thought, this is what this thought kind of made you creative in a way that you gave them space to understand themselves. Because that is something what I needed at that point, just to understand where that doubt was coming from, despite having worked for so many years, right? And that is what every person needs, a space to be held, a space to be themselves.
Yeah.
Every person, be it anything, this is all that they want, to be heard, to be seen for their truest person, despite them putting a million facades in front of
Yeah,
you.
like without being judged, like nobody wants to be judged. So like that, like a fear of being judged, like instantly kicks in. Like
Yeah,
people don't want to be embarrassed about something. That's why they don't do stupid things in public, even though if that makes them like have fun. Yeah, like it
yeah,
all comes down to like being judged.
yeah. And also it's very driven into the society and the culture. It's very drilled
Yeah,
into
we have put a really
children. And
strong nails on things, and it's time we
yeah.
need to take them out, because I think that if you're doing if you're doing something naturally, that means that there is a reason why you're doing, right? Like I think this is one thing that I've learned talking to you for so long, that like listening to like whatever is happening in our mind or listening to our body, it's very important. So sometimes we might think in a certain way or do like we might feel in a certain way because maybe of our past experiences, which is not natural. So I think that if something is happening naturally to us, I think we shouldn't just uh, like discard it. Like we need to consider it. We need to think about it. We shouldn't just label it and then push it away.
Introspection, time for yourself, reflection, these are all things that really, really help you as a person. Nobody ever sits down with, okay, I broke up with this person, this is how I feel. Okay, what part of me feels the loss? It's okay to mourn the loss.
Yeah.
Every time you lose something, it's important for you to mourn, right? When somebody passes away, you mourn their loss. Same thing. When you lose something in your life, when you lose a relationship, when you lose a friendship, when you mourn it. It's okay to feel the way you're feeling. It's completely okay to be uncomfortable. It is completely fine.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. If this can be translated and told to children, that it's not the end of the world when you feel sad, and when things don't go your way, it's not the end of the world, then we're looking at, curbing suicide, curbing self-harm, because then there is some sort of hope that, okay, things will get better someday, or even if they don't get better, I'm going to be a better version of myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like, we're living in a pandemic. What more like worse of a situation can you think of? Right, we're living amidst a pandemic. Every time you go out, there is a fear that you might catch the virus, you might fall sick, right? The most uncertain period of our life.
Yeah.
This is what the world and the like, let's say the whole life can throw at us.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, how are you keeping your sanity?
Mhm.
And whatever way anybody is coping with something, it is the right way for them at that
Yeah.
point.
We
It
shouldn't
might be
generalize
destructive,
things.
of course, of course. And whatever be it, especially this pandemic, however it be, people are dealing with it the way they want to deal with it. Just let them deal with it. They will figure out a way. People will figure out a way. That's why I said, even in the beginning, you are 21 years old. You have gotten yourself to be alive, happy, and well for 21 years.
Yeah.
What makes you think you're going to sit and take advice from another person who knows Sankarsh for, like, let's say 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Of course, you value them. The closeness of the relation is there. All of that is there. But you know yourself the most. You
Like we
have
need to
gotten
trust
yourself.
that instinct. Like we need to trust that. Like you need like the self trust, like the confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Or
I think that's why those co-curricular activities in school are actually ways for you to trust yourself.
Hmm.
If you actually see, there are ways for you to trust yourself. Trust yourself with something away from academics. You have the option to pick whatever you want to, whatever interests you. Every term you can do something new, or whatever. At least that's how it was when I was studying. You know, dancing, this thing. These are all ways to listen to your body.
yes.
If only the school sort of brings that awareness, sort of ties it up, saying that, this is how you can relate it to yourself. If you just tie it up, they just leave very loose ends, is what I feel. If you just
Yeah.
tie it up for the child, then you're looking at very, very educated, not literate, but educated
Yeah.
generation.
And also sometimes like even you are 30 years old or 40 years old, you sometimes it's okay to not know what you're doing in life. Like I think that we all want, as growing up also we all want to be something, like either like doctor or either find our passion or anything. I think like these days like passion is so overrated. Like everybody is like, oh, look for your passion, like whatever you're passionate about, like strive for it. I think that it's like whatever you like today and you feel really passionate about it, after a few days you might not end up liking it anymore. Like you do overdo, if you overdo anything you like, you will stop liking it. So like people should realize that like whatever you like today you might not like tomorrow, and it's okay to, even it's okay for that too.
Yeah, and what you're saying is that everyone wants certainty in their life.
Yeah.
The thing is, everyone wants certainty. Like they want to know what they want to be. They want to know how their life's going to turn when they're 40. If they continue in this profession. Uncertainty, yes, of course, is a thing that we're not taught to deal with. We're not sort of exposed to. Let's say not taught, but exposed to. We're not exposed to these things,
Yes.
and that's when, like, I chose a field that is very different. Something that even I was very surprised about when I heard about 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago. So I was very surprised, and I was like, okay, what is dance movement therapy? Like, oh, okay. The first thing everyone asked me, is there a future? How much are you going to earn?
Hmm.
But of course, there is all of that. There is the fact that I have to, fend myself. All that is there.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm doing something that I really like.
Yeah.
I'm using the therapeutics of movement to provide therapy, right? I'm using basic breathing, basic hand gestures, movements, and we have dance movement therapy works with various populations: children with autism, children with learning disabilities, normal children going to school, you know, and it deals with so many therapeutic heads. Through the group process, we deal with so many therapeutic heads like confidence, self-esteem, self-concept, body awareness, self-awareness, trust, rhythm, bonding, group coordination, group cohesiveness, social skills. We tackle all of these. Eye contact. We do all of this in a group, right? Just to have that group in a circle and work through something with movement.
Yeah.
When you're going through a very anxious period, people will ask you to deep breathe. Why? Why don't they ask you to think of peaceful thoughts? They never ask you to think of peaceful things, or like imagine water, or like something that's very calming. Nobody says that.
Yeah.
They will say, of course, like calm your thoughts down. They will say all of that, but nobody will say, like, think of something that's really peaceful, or like all of that. They will give you things to sense, music or sound that is peaceful, breathing. These are all movement, fundamental movements. Just by breathing into your belly, you are able to calm your nervous system, because at the end of the day, it is a bodily response to something that you're feeling inside. So you're teaching the body to calm down so that the mind can calm down.
Hmm.
And try it. Like when you deep breathe through a very anxious situation,
It helps. Yeah.
your breath, you do slow down, because it's using your body. Yes, you can explain it through science in a million ways about the central nervous system calming down, the parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, all of that, right? But at the end of the day, you're using a bottom up approach where you are using the body to calm what is happening there.
It's like reverse engineering the thoughts.
And we are all used to using our body. Tell me one person. Of course, people will be like, how about people with some sort of physical disability? They are blinking their eyes. They are breathing, you know. They
There
are
is
doing
some
so
form
much.
of movement, like no matter what. Like at least
We
our
can't
cells are
sit down.
moving.
We feel very stuck when we sit in one place. The pandemic, if you've noticed, there must have been at least one day where you're like, when is this going to end? When can I go out freely? Because what does going out mean? That you're actually getting up, getting yourself out of this space and going somewhere. That requires movement.
And also it's just a psychological thought of, okay, I have a freedom to do anything. Like now feel very restricted, right? Because of the rules. We are not supposed to go out. But yeah,
People.
just a thought of uh, freedom and going anywhere we want. I think that is what people are wanting. Just a thought of, okay, I can do anything now.
Yeah, and that makes them feel in touch with themselves. That makes them feel like there is a need for the
Yeah,
connection with nature, connection with people. That's so important because as human beings, we're always connecting. We
true.
always want to connect to something or the other. Even when you mentioned, we have a personal meaning to things, right? We attach personal meaning, and that's how human process works. It's just, are we attaching healthy meaning, unhealthy meaning again?
Yeah, yeah. And I had so much fun talking to you. Like, this was really wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this. Like, there's so much I got to learn today, and I'm definitely gonna implement like all the thoughts that I've got from here. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a really lovely conversation.
It's my pleasure, and I hope we do this again sometime.